Alright, so I'm going to go through retopologizing. I've got a bust here of Victor Von Doom, and so what we want to do is we want to start to isolate out pieces. We're going to retopologize using Z tools in order to do that. They're topology tools. And so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to extract this thing out, and so I'll just clone it. That's going to make a separate copy. So now we've just got the head geometry sort of isolated. So this means that you can go ahead and build your character in multiple parts, and then go ahead and retopologize. We can merge the whole thing into one mesh and make one giant piece of geo. I'm going to keep it separate for now and just show you the workflow. Okay, so first thing I need to do is switch over into my Z-spheres. Right, I'm going to keep my basic materials going, so matte cap gray is a nice one. I'm going to scroll down here. This is Z-sketch, we've been using that a lot. Rigging, I'm going to select a mesh, and we want this Dr. Doom mask, and you see there it is, it's all ghosted out, that's great. Now we're going to edit the topology, okay? So I've got my draw size set to 1, alright, and I'm going to go in here, and I'm just going to start drawing points, but first let me turn on symmetry, okay? And so let's just start drawing out geometry and see what we get. Alright, so that's the basic workflow right there, and you see as I continue to click, I'm undoing right now what I've done because I wanted to show this bug. Now right here we have the original Z-sphere. If I click, it's going to actually draw a piece of geo from the original origin of the Z-sphere out to the surface. I don't want that. What I want to do is just kind of reinitialize the tool. Alright, so let's make sure X is on, right, and that we're in draw mode. And so let me just double click on X a couple times, and it looks like it is on. Alright, and so what I want to do here is I'm actually going to get in here because I want to create a piece of geometry that flows down the nose, and in order to reinitialize every time that you draw, if I go back in here and click, every time I rotate, if I go back and click, it's going to create sort of its own isolated piece. I want that green handle to come up, that red handle, that green handle. That means, like this is live. So now I can just go ahead and I'm going to style this thing out like so. I'm not going to add an incredible amount of detail, but I do want to follow the flow of my object, right? And so I'm going to come along here, close this off. Now you see it's kind of like one of these things where you have to experiment with the order, the creation order, because what we're trying to do is create really good clean topology, and there's our topology right there. It's pre-subdividing this stuff and smoothing it, right? And so that's fine. I want that kind of behavior. Now I just exited out and I did some moving around, and so in order to reinitialize, I'm just going to go back in here and click. Now if I click and click again, it's going to give me the opportunity to move around, right? But I have to kind of find a start point in order to get going. So I want a piece there. I'm going to move down the side of the mouth, down here underneath, and back up. And so probably going to divide this in half here so I can get up and turn the corner on the nose, right? So if I go back out this way, you can see that it's not like I've got some particular order that I go in. I just kind of follow the topology. And so if I want to reinitialize again, I just click, and now I can come back in here and get right back into making geometry. And so I want to close that gap. I'll zoom in. There we go. And I'm looking for quads, right? So at every point in this game of connecting planes and whatnot, I'm trying to create a four-sided, so 1, 2, 3, 4, right? And so let me come out of that right there, switch over here so I can connect this piece of geometry. Now I'm going to go from there straight down, try and hit that center point, roll around, check our geo, looks okay. Now you see that little red dot right there, there's a little red dot that's saying that it's initialized somewhere. So I don't want to necessarily lose that, and so again it's just paying attention to where this dot is. You know, if I click out here, you know, it's actually just going to create a point on the surface, and you see that created a bug, right? It created this weird kind of thing from the very bottom of the Z-sphere, the original Z-sphere. I don't want that. I want to stay inside of this mesh, right? So I'm going to always continue to go back and initialize on a point that I've already created that I know is on the surface. And so once you kind of get going with this, you know, you can really fly with retopologizing geometry, and you know, it's gonna then be up to you to kind of understand the rules of the game of making good geo. Is about creating quads, it's about creating edge flow, it's about making sure that there's enough geometry to do the work that you need. Now it looks like there's a wrinkle there. That is some kind of overlapping. It looks like that right there is not snapped in, and there's an extra vert there. And so what I'm going to do, again, I've got my draw. If I hold Alt, right, it doesn't say Z sub, but if I hold Alt and click, it's actually going to delete those guys. And so I'm just going to get rid of anything that looks like it doesn't have a home, right? So now I'm going to go back in here and reconnect these guys, right? And so now let's take a look, and it looks like, you know, we sorted that problem out. There's no more issue there. Okay, and so let me just race through some more of this. I'm going to jump out of there. I'm going to start back up here now. So zoom in, and I want to create a you see what's going on there? It's creating that little glitch. It wants to be back down here. I want up there, right? So once I know, you know, every time I scroll like this, it sort of pops me out of the tool. I have to reinitialize. All right, but you know, that kind of a thing, you'll sort of get the flow of it, you know, eventually. But what I want to do is I want to come up along. I want to make sure there's enough geometry here for these hard edges. So I'm gonna, by clicking on that, I'm out of that side. I'm going to come back over here, go along the, I missed my spot right there, go along the lower edge of the face, right? So here, there, down. So it's not without its bugs, but this tool is super powerful, and once you get the hang of exiting out of certain parts that you're working on in order to go over and work on another piece of geometry, you're gonna start to fly through making clean mental ray, Maya, you know, super great topology ready, game ready, you know, whatever ready models out of our sculpt sessions, which were free and fun, and we had no problems kind of just learning how to invent and be creative with ZBrush. So now what we're going to learn how to do here is make sure that we've got industry standard geometry for our creations, so that they go into a pipeline, there's no problems. All right, you see how that's creating that nice hard edge. Okay, so that's pretty much the basics of it. I'm going to go ahead, pause, race through retopologizing the rest of this. Okay, so I'm just going to finish up the eyes really quick. It looks like I'm not going to have enough time to get through retopologizing this whole head before class starts. I got to get on the road and get up into the city. But one of the things that I noticed is that having this perspective toggle turned on is a real bad idea. I wasn't getting, you know, intuitive behavior, but as soon as I turned that toggle off, I started to again be able to control exactly where the mesh was going and where the points were going and the symmetry. And so the big important thing that we're trying to make sure that we have control over is symmetry. And so, you know, you can see now that I have that toggle off, this is pretty short work of just racing around. And there we go. Here's Dr. Doom, the front part of his mask, and you know, we're about 10 minutes in, and so let me just go ahead and get his lip as well. So I'm gonna, and I want to be careful to actually hit these geometry points, right? And so this is where I'm going from, boom, boom, right down the line. And then I'm going to go back around so I have a few pieces of subdivision around his mouth. Let's check our work. So it looks pretty good. Turn polyframe on, you know, we're going to be able to catch all of the detail. We've got nice edge flow if we want to deform this thing. You know, some areas we might go ahead and straighten out even further. We can always just re-enter the tool, but you see the difference between the old topology and this new geometry. It's just remarkable, and when we turn perspective on, you know, we get this nice look. Now we're going to be able to reproject all our detail onto this new piece of geometry. But that's for a later segment. All right.